honored by the presence of my friends like Satish Jha and Professor from Hyderabad University, Hyderabad Institute. I'm really honored by the presence of the students, and I'm also nervous a little bit. Nervous because I think most of the things that I've written in the book has already been discussed with my friends and students. There's nothing new in this, and I'm not a writer. I'm a very reluctant writer, in fact. And I, quite for some time, I believed writing is a useless activity because it really alienates you from a lot of other social activities, including talking. I'm a talker. I would like to talk, and I want to continuously talk about things. It's not exactly the oral tradition, as people call it, but yes, I think talking is samvad. We are samvadi, basically. Professor Anand Kumar used to call me samvadi, that you are a samvadi. So I think that category I love to own. This book, as I keep repeating it, and I want to repeat it once again, is not, I mean, the name has to be there, therefore my name is there, but it is not my book. It is a collective project. In any case, knowledge is a collective project. The arrogance of claiming that the copyright belongs to the author is, I think, very capitalist. And this book has actually emerged as a text in this classroom. This class, since last 15, 16 years, I have been talking about. When I came to JNU, I took two places. One that I will write in Hindi, and two that I will talk about Indian intellectual traditions. Why did I decide that? Hindi gradually, not because I'm a Hindi wala, as my friend Satish keeps calling people, that Hindi chauvinist. I'm not a Hindi chauvinist. I think language should not be a part of the structure of dominance. It's a carrier of knowledge. And in whichever language we are comfortable, we should be writing on that. I was convinced after coming here by Professor Guru's argument that the elites use language to humiliate subaltern. And you remember his article, How Egalitarian Are Social Sciences. And also I'm thankful to CPS, which was very arrogant, and let me acknowledge that, which was very arrogant on the issue of language. And I will not narrate the story, which is not a beautiful story for this audience. But generally, I have faced students coming from different centers of JNU, fully humiliated due to their linguistic skill. And that forced me to start a magazine, which many of you might be knowing by now, it's Sublog. It started in my room one day, and that was first day when I started writing for Jansatta. My first few articles of Jansatta. After reading that, a couple of friends called me, on whom are you angry? And I told them, yes, anger is there. Gradually that anger went off due to my consistent effort to get rid of the anger. So I don't think I am a Hindi chauvinist, but I think language should not be a basis of humiliation. It is a social thing. We are born in a language, we are trained in particular language. We need not be trained in the elite language very well. Our linguistic skills may remain very poor, and I'm really thankful to Hilal, who wrote his MPhil in Hindi, but when he started writing in English, one of his professors in, SWAS, told him that please remember English is your second language, and 90% of people in the world do not have any second language. So you are very lucky to have a second language. So that is on language, where people keep raising this question, and JNU particularly, this question becomes very important. I appeal to students and teachers that you must write, apart from the ruling class language in which you have to write to survive, must write in what is called vernacular language. That is our own language. Only through that we can engage with people. We can communicate with people. I think one of the questions that I raised to one of my professors, who was also my guide when she wrote her first book, that for whom have you written this book? And the answer, of course, mostly in India is that for the Akas in Europe. But they have to give us recognition. I mean, let me share with you a story about this, and many of you must be knowing, when I asked Ashish Nandi that you have been talking about colonial damage, the cognitive damage that has been done, but you have never moved beyond that. How long shall we keep talking about that we need to get rid of that? He said, we fear. We fear because we will not get recognition. And if we don't get recognition, we will not get air tickets. And these are his words. So I think we have to get rid of this psychology. That is the politics of knowledge. The politics of knowledge is that our knowledge should be political and should have political consequences, should really understand people's plight and should give them a mirror, should give them kind of idea that what's happening with you and how you have to fight. We are no God-like people. We can't fight for people. They have to fight. No matter how much historical materialism we know, unless they know about it, nothing will happen. So we really have to talk in their lingua. And lingua doesn't mean only translating things into Hindi, but that would mean that connecting with their collective consciousness, engaging with their collective consciousness. And one of the projects that I started long back, it is not a funded project, called Mapping Knowledge and Practice in India, and now we are making it Mapping Knowledge and Practice in Asia, trying to understand how people do think, what are the categories and concepts through which they are thinking about themselves, how do they look at their own exploitation, what are the theories they build for themselves. And I think if human beings are theory building beings, then we are making theories whether we know English or not, or French or not. If we are human beings, then we have to make theories. Maybe the theories are not of first order, maybe third order, 10th order, but we can't survive without making theories. So if we are making theories and we are living with those theories, then anybody who wants to change society will have to understand my theory. That's my point. That's why I call it Gyan ki Rajneeti. I did not call it Bharatiya Darshan. I call it Bharatiya Chintan. I'm not still sure how to comprehend that darshan, because it's a civilizational thing and such a huge thing. And such civilizational histories, you will find there are a lot of moments of creativity, humiliation, domination, breaking those domination through struggles. So there are a lot of resources. So I treat this as reservoir of resources from which we have to take things and create a philosophy for future. Design our philosophy for future struggle. And I call it, we have to move from administrative social science to transformative social science. If social science is not transformative, it is nothing. At the moment, and this is very unformulated critique of what we are doing today, what we are doing is an administrative social science. The state requires this social science to control people. Our politicians are better. They create transformative social science. In whatever ways they want to transform society, they create new social knowledge. We don't even access that social knowledge. I mean, one of the projects that I would like to do in future is to talk to senior political leaders to understand how did they understand society. I mean, look at the Indian thinkers, Ambedkar, Gandhi, Tagore, Nehru, anybody, everybody. Except one of the papers in which we talk about it. Where do you discuss that? Nowhere. So it means if they've transformed India with their own theories, then where have they gone? So this is one of the things that I've raised in this book, and I'll just mention what are the contents of the chapters to make it short and stop it in the next 5 minutes. The first chapter is about possibility of dialogue with Indian philosophy, Bharatiya Darshan. And remember, when I'm saying Indian, just another thing I'm working on now, it doesn't mean philosophy of a community. Indian philosophy has a huge history. I'm just tracing from 6th century BC Vaishali, where in 10 kilometers of radius you will find Buddha, Jain, Mahavir Jain, Mahatma Buddha, Ajit K. Kambal, so many of them, and they were all political. And they were then creating new dialogue, and a new philosophy emerged called Anikantvad there. Then you have stages like Alexander's coming to India, a new dialogue started. Or Muslim philosophers coming to India, much before Muslim rulers coming to India, and the dialogue that happened during that time. And not only India, now I'm discovering that such dialogues were taking place in different parts of Asian society. Uzbekistan, huge dialogue was there. We are discovering, I'm just reading a book on Pakistan, and so much of similarity in the dialogue that is there. So this possibility of dialogue with Indian tradition, Indian Bharatiya Darshan, what I'm calling it, not only 6 schools of thought, but whatever is available. In that, I just want to say one thing. It's a very modest attempt to what I call, there are 2 words in Hindi, and I don't find good translations, so let me use that. Bunana or binana. Bunana is when you are kind of weaving the entire frame, and bunana is you are picking up something. So this book is very modest attempt to binana. I'm picking up concepts and categories to see if that can help us in understanding our reality. Second is the question of universal versus particular. When I'm raising this question, please remember it is not about Indian society only. I'm trying to see what are the universal elements. I want to understand human beings, and I would consider all philosophical traditions anywhere in the world as resources for human beings. And we need to engage in a dialogue with them to appropriate resources for our struggle against humiliation and domination, and whatever forms of domination are there. So it is not about any chauvinism, that Indian philosophy is the best in the world and we are the gurus and whatever. I'm not into it, so please remember, because this is one of the things I had in my mind, so subconsciously it has come in many places. I'm denying that kind of project. The painting of this, the cover design is of a friend of mine whose name is Santosh Verma. I'm very impressed by him. There's a story behind this painting and my relation with him. But interesting thing that I got from him was that he is an abstract painter, and a political scientist asked him, "What are you painting of?" And he got very frustrated and came to me that what should be my reply. So my reply to him was in a form of write-up for him. And I argued that he's trying to paint the consciousness. And the consciousness was from Banaras. He was a person from Banaras. And now I'm really happy to know, at Kaviraj, while writing a response to the review of my book done by Hilal, that actually the resources lies with the people who do not know English. And we must try to engage with those people more and more. And this painter is one of those who passed his degree in MA in Fine Art without knowing English, and it was all cheating. But the beautiful thing in his painting is that he creates a frame, then he breaks the frame. Most of the time, now he's having no frame. Normally when you start painting, you create a frame, and within that you try to paint. Initially he was breaking the frame, and now he doesn't have any frame. So I think that is philosophically very connected with what I want to do. So we need to break this frame of the Bharatiya Darshan also. Second chapter, which is being mostly appreciated by people, is on human nature, and I think this is a very fundamental argument that I want to build up. If you look at this is the argument everybody knows that I've been talking about, Bhargav's book, Mythological Individualism, makes a brilliant point that human beings are complex beings. The Western philosophy has committed a mistake of taking one aspect and theorizing the entire thing. But then where is the next book? I asked Professor Bhargav. He said, I could not write that. And I asked why? He said, I didn't have the confidence. So that is politics of knowledge. Why we don't have, I told him that if you don't have confidence, a lesser mortal like us will never have confidence to write about it. So probably that is one thing where we need to work very hard. I got tired while writing, so it became very short. It could become a book in itself. I'm trying to collaborate with more people now to think about it. It has 2 elements. One is Purusharth and other is Vikar. I think Purusharth has been worked out very well. We have not worked fairly well on Vikar. How that is an integral part of us, and how that not only constitutes us but also shapes us. And if that shapes us, then if it gets more in elements, then how to control that? How society will manage it? So that is something that we need to probably work. But this theory, I think, is a very universal theory. and a great contribution of this part of the world, but this makes things very complex. There are 12 elements actually, and that unsettles social sciences completely. 4 Purusharth, 6 Vikar, then Desh and Kal, time and space, and then Bhav and Ras. And Jigyasu I can understand it better as he's working on emotion. This Bhav and Ras is also another important point that we have to consider. I don't think I have done justice with those elements, but that can be expanded further. Erich Fromm has been of great help for me in this, but he has his own limitations. Carl Jung has been of great help, but he has his own limitations. Chintamani by Shukla is an excellent book. Must be translated in English. I think that is a fundamental book of understanding these elements. So that is one. Third thing is मनुष्य के स्वभाव की अवधारणा और समाज अध्ययन. That's the second. Third is समाज अध्ययन के स्वरूप पर भारतीय बहस. This is an old article, quite well read by people, I think. This talks about actually autobiography and social science, and it covers most of the debates in social sciences, 4 debates particularly. And the central figure in this article is Tulsiramji and his Murdaiya. I think this is a text that everybody should read and read repeatedly. I don't know why it has not been translated as yet. It was in the process of being translated, but this is one of the great books of last 50 years, I guess. Then the other chapters are...
Sorry, what is the title of this book?
Murdaiya. Other chapters are weaker chapters, I consider, like संक्रमण काल में चिंतन के लिए सृजन संवाद. This is a dialogue. It is very imaginative. That if this is a transition period, I guess, when no philosophy is dominant. This is a very interesting time, and your generation is living in an interesting time. Half the age we passed by thinking that Marxism was the only philosophy that will solve all problems. Half the age we are frustrated. But your generation probably is a generation of creativity. You will think in a better way. And we kept debating. After 90, we were so frustrated, had sleepless nights that we believed in something and we lost that. So what to do with that? But not to be frustrated in the sense that if you, as I remember Ranveer Singh's answer to Manmohan Singh, when Manmohan Singh asked him that, are you still a Marxist for Ranveer Singh? He said, what if one is a Marxist without a Communist Party? So I think there is some fundamental thought that Marx has produced is a big resource for humanity at the moment, and we must approach that, but we should not limit ourselves to that. And I would say Marx informed philosophy, Gandhi informed philosophy, Ambedkar informed philosophy, but always searching for something new, because structures of dominance are meaning and new are being created, so we have to really work on that. So that dialogue I've tried to see that how we can have different kinds of engagements from different traditions and create something new. Then Bharatiya Jantantra for Punah Chintan. Supriy said that this article should have been much more thick. I do agree, because I think what I was trying to do is, if I take this Purusharth and Vikar concept and then try to understand democracy from there, how will it look like? What kind of theory will emerge? Whether it's a great idea or not. We need to even question that, but the way majoritarianism is growing, maybe it was built in the theory itself. So we have to re-examine that. It's not something not to be examined. But last chapter, I think, is my core chapter, and which is part of my larger thesis on Marxism and religion and Dharm ki Muktikami Khoj. And that has been debated, of course, but these two thinkers who have been considered mostly as Unnayak of Bharatiya Parampara, Trivedi and Jaishankar Prasad, the way they have critiqued Hinduism and Hindu philosophy, the way they have produced new approach to look at these things is amazing. And I think they have tried to argue towards the end of their life and the beginning of independent India that unless we start rethinking religion, we will not even have secularism. And that is a very fundamental point I think I would like to contest with these secularist philosophers. I think secularism is dead. long live secularism. That should be our process in the sense that we really have to recreate. How do we live together? Otherwise we will kill each other. So if we don't want to kill each other, then we really have to think how to live together. And the model of living together that was provided by secularism was very modernist, was not even accepting our spiritual aspirations. That model has completely failed. We have to create new model. So it's a kind of book which invites you to debate. And it's a collective project, so your critique will not be my critique, your critique will self-critique. So I'm quite happy about it. And you have to generate new ideas. If I have missed some philosophers, I have not missed philosophers. In fact, as I'm a reluctant writer, I think I have accumulated a lot of things to say in last 30 years. And you know, some children who start speaking very late. So you will find they will start speaking full sentences. So I think that's my problem also. I started speaking very late and in more articulated form. I kept trying to learn how to write and failed. A good number of books in my library you will find on writing, how to write. And still I failed. Still when I wrote this big book, Jigyasu said that, well, initially I thought the book is not written in proper format. And the format itself has to be broken. The target should not be the publisher. The target should be, the audience should be our people. Are we able to communicate with the people or not? I think the book has failed in communicating to the people. This audience will find the book interesting, may find the book interesting. Some of them may not find the book interesting. I'm not bothered about it. I'm bothered about the last person in my village. And who reads? He complained that your book is too complicated. Of course, I think a lot of ideas are complicated also. But he's commented that your language is also a little complicated. And that gave very disheartening feeling to me. I mean, I wrote a good number of articles in Pradhan cover, and I was very happy because my villagers were reading them. And I kept writing for long. People told me, why are you writing Pradhan cover? I think that is one of the tasks that we have to perform. Talk to your own people. I think the book, success or failure, will actually be defined by that, apart from your appreciating it or critiquing it. Thank you very much. Sorry I took